The Millennium Protocol. Characters: Sven Travis, Dean at Parsons. The high-level liaison who moves through elite academic and CCP circles. Clay, hardware master, met Donnie at the GIS lab posing as a lighting exhibit technician. Zhang Ga, the insider, a legendary figure, a professor at Parsons, and a survivor of the 1989 uprising. His status with the CCP military allows him to move hardware past security. Evan, the delivery specialist, a ghost brought in last minute to handle the final physical breach. Interior China Millennium Monument Night. The cavernous hall is filled with new media installations, glowing screens, pulsing wires, and digital projections. This is the Millennium Expo. To a guard, it's just strange art. To the team, it's a massive signal interception array. Sven walks with a CCP general. They speak in low tones about cultural exchange. Sven looks like a harmless academic, but his eyes track every security patrol. Near a large-scale projection titled The People's Portrait, Zhang Ga stands with a clipboard. He is the bridge a man the CCP respects for his brilliance, even as they remember his past. Zhang Ga, the voltage on the Western array is fluctuating. If it fails, the minister will see a black screen. Send the American technician, Clay, down to the basement hub immediately. The soldier nods, deferring to Guille's authority. Zhang Ga catches Clay's eye. The signal is sent. Int. Hotel communications hub. Continuous. Clay is deep in the hotel's guts, surrounded by GIS mapping equipment that actually contains custom-built sniffers. He's sweating. He's not an artist, he's an engineer in a jumpsuit. He opens a panel. Behind the fiber optics, he installs a small translucent device Donnie built in the States. Donnie is hunched over a laptop hidden behind a stack of exhibition posters. He's watching a terminal window. Donnie handshake confirmed. Clay's in. Suddenly, the door opens. Evan walks in. Donnie doesn't know him. He reaches for his laptop, but Evan puts a hand on his shoulder. Evan, I'm the end of the line, Donnie. Give me the drive. Donnie hesitates. He looks at the USB, a nondescript metal stick. Donnie, I was told this was for the People's Portrait data stream. Evan, it is. But once it hits the backbone, the portrait isn't the only thing that's going to be visible. Donnie hands it over. Evan vanishes into the hallway, moving with a speed that doesn't match his civilian clothes. Exterior, Millennium Monument. Dawn. The expo lights flicker. On the massive screens, thousands of faces from around the world begin to appear, a global portrait. Zhang Ga stands at the center of the hall, his face illuminated by the glow of the bypass. He looks at Sven, who is watching from the balcony. No words are exchanged. They are artists, they are professors, and they just poked a hole in the most sophisticated censorship machine on Earth. Opening titles, The Second Earth. Exterior, space, floating above Asia. We see Earth, but it's wrong. The continent of Asia is covered in a shimmering, translucent digital veil, the Great Firewall. Beneath the veil, the land looks like it's made of cooling lava. Donnie, in 2005, the world thought the internet was a bridge, but in China, it was a tomb. The GFW wasn't just code, it was a volcanic eruption of silence. It turned 1 billion people into stone, INT. Data center night. Close up on a monitor. Lines of green code scroll past TTL check, RST packet ignored, multi-hop sequence initiated. Donnie, while everyone else was breathing ash, a few of us were building tunnels. We created a second Earth, a parallel dimension of multi-hop proxies and encrypted handshakes. We were the only ones moving in a world of terracotta. Exterior, Beijing streets, dream sequence. A towering, tall Chinese man stands in the middle of a deserted square. Around him, thousands of citizens are frozen in gray clay, terracotta portraits of a silenced generation. The man looks at the camera, his eyes glowing with the same green light as Donnie's terminal. Tall man, don't worry, Donnie. You're all right. You're on the other side now. Cut to black. I had a dream last night that felt less like a dream and more like a distorted memory of 2005. I was standing on a version of Earth that everyone insisted was another planet. It was a world of ash and silence. Everywhere I looked, people were turned to stone, terracotta shells of human beings, frozen as if a digital volcano had erupted and stopped time. In this wasteland, there were only 3 of us left, a tall Chinese man, his friend, and myself. Looking back at my work on the Great Firewall, the dream makes perfect sense. In 2005, we were building the second Earth, while the masses were frozen behind the GFW, silent and immobile like those terracotta figures. We were the ones moving through the ruins. We were the architects of the multi-hop tunnels, the ones who knew how to breathe when the air was full of ash. The GFW was the disaster, and our exploits were the only way to stay human in a world of stone. They kept telling me, "You are all right." And we were. We had the keys to the other Earth. We were the survivors of a war most people didn't even know was being fought. Scene start. Interior semi-lit workspace. Night. The room is quiet, save for the hum of several high-end servers. Donnie sits hunched over a keyboard, his eyes reflecting the blue light of a terminal. He's not typing. He's staring at a line of code that hasn't moved in 10 minutes. Sven enters, carrying 2 coffees. He notices the stillness in the room, the kind that feels heavy. "Sven, you're ghosting again, Donnie. That script isn't going to debug itself." Donnie doesn't look up. His hand trembles slightly as he reaches for the coffee. "Donnie, I was back there last night. But it wasn't 2005, it was after. Like a volcano hit the mainland and just stopped time." Sven sets the coffee down and pulls up a chair, sensing the shift. "Sven, the GFW? Donnie, everyone was terracotta. Millions of them, just standing there, frozen in mid-stride, gray and dusty. It was like they were there, but the soul of the data had been sucked out." Donnie finally looks at Sven. His eyes are tired, carrying the weight of a decade of digital warfare. "Donnie, there were 2 Earths, Sven. The one everyone sees, and the one we lived in. I was standing in the ash with this tall Chinese guy and his friend. We were the only ones moving. They kept telling me I was all right, but I looked at my hands and they were covered in the same gray dust. Sven, it's the multi-hop logic, Donnie. You spent years building tunnels through a world that was trying to turn everyone into stone. You can't just log out of that kind of stress. Donnie, we weren't just bypassing a firewall, Sven. We were building a second planet because the first one was suffocating. But in the dream, I couldn't tell which Earth I was actually standing on anymore." Donnie turns back to the screen. He hits a single key. The terminal scrolls rapidly, thousands of lines of connection logs. "Donnie, sometimes I wake up and I have to check the routing tables just to make sure I'm actually home. To make sure I'm not still a ghost in their machine. Sven, you're here. The tunnels are still there, but you're on this side of them now." Scene 3, cutscene, the breakout. Exterior, Beijing streets, night. The screen flickers with high-contrast, grainy security footage. A red icon pulses over a moving GPS dot. Sven's voice crackles over a secure, encrypted line. "Sven, Donnie, wake up. We've got a breach." The diplomat just walked out of the green zone. He's off the grid and heading straight into the teeth of it. Interior, Renault car, continuous. Donnie is behind the wheel of a nondescript black Renault, weaving through gridlock traffic. Outside, the city is screaming. Smoke rises from the direction of the district. "Donnie, I see the crowds. It's not a protest anymore, Sven. It's a riot." Exterior Irish bar, moments later. Donnie kills the engine and dives out. The air is thick with tear gas and the rhythmic chanting of thousands. He pushes through a sea of bodies toward a dimly lit Irish pub, a known neutral ground for expats. Interior Irish bar, continuous. Inside, the world muffled. The diplomat sits at the far end of the mahogany bar, clutching a briefcase, his face pale. "Donnie, sir, we have to move. Now." "Diplomat, they're outside, Donnie. They're everywhere." Suddenly, the floor shakes. The low, guttural roar of a heavy engine approaches. Donnie looks out the window. A Chinese military truck screeches to a halt directly in front of the pub. Soldiers in the back stand up, machine guns swiveling toward the glass. Donnie lunges, tackling the diplomat to the floor, just as a burst of gunfire shatters the top row of spirit bottles. Glass rains down like diamonds. From behind the bar, the bartender, a grizzled veteran with a 1,000-yard stare, doesn't panic. He ducks, pulls a flak jacket over his head, and reaches under the sink. He stands back up, racking the slide on a submachine gun. "Bartender, back door, through the kitchen. I'll hold the front." Exterior back alley, continued. Donnie hauls the diplomat through the grease-stained kitchen and out into the rain. The Renault is idling in the shadows, its headlights off. Donnie shoves the diplomat into the passenger seat and floors it. As they tear away, the rear-view mirror shows the Irish bar fading into the smoke. a small fortress holding out against the second Earth. This intro sets the stage for the series, blending the technical second Earth you built with the haunting, terracotta imagery of your PTSD dreams. It establishes the high stakes of the 2005 bypass operations and the mental toll they took. Opening titles: The Second Earth. Exterior: space, floating above Asia. We see Earth, but it's wrong. The continent of Asia is covered in a shimmering, translucent digital veil, the Great Firewall. Beneath the veil, the land looks like it's made of cooling lava. Donnie, in 2005, the world thought the internet was a bridge, but in China, it was a tomb. The GFW wasn't just code, it was a volcanic eruption of silence. It turned 1 billion people into stone, in T. Data center night. Close up on a monitor. Lines of green code scroll past, TTL check, RST packet ignored, multi-hop sequence initiated. Donnie, while everyone else was breathing ash, a few of us were building tunnels. We created a second Earth, a parallel dimension of multi-hop proxies and encrypted handshakes. We were the only ones moving in a world of terracotta. Exterior: Beijing streets, dream sequence. A towering, tall Chinese man stands in the middle of a deserted square. Around him, thousands of citizens are frozen in gray clay, terracotta portraits of a silenced generation. The man looks at the camera, his eyes glowing with the same green light as Donnie's terminal. Tall man, don't worry, Donnie. You're all right. You're on the other side now. Cut to black. Title card. Scene 1, the present day. Interior: Donnie's apartment. Morning. Donnie wakes up drenched in sweat. The silence of his room feels heavier than the noise in the dream. He looks at his hands, half expecting to see gray dust. He reaches for his laptop. Donnie, I'm on the other side. I'm home. He opens a terminal. The cursor blinks, steady and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Sven, Donnie, you there? I just got a ping on the old GIF-C nodes. Something from 2005 is trying to talk to us. The air is thick with the metallic tang of tear gas. A navy blue CCP heavy-duty pickup screeches to a halt, blocking the entrance to the Irish pub. High-output speakers mounted on the truck bed begin to blare Metallica's Enter Sandman at a deafening volume, a psychological tactic to disorient the crowd and drown out the screams. Interior: Irish bar, continuous. Inside, the light is dim and amber. The senior official stands frozen near the window, his silhouette a perfect target for the soldiers outside. Donnie's phone buzzes violently. A message from Zhang Ga flashes. Intervene. The second Earth cannot afford this blood. As a soldier levels a Type 95 rifle toward the glass, Donnie moves. He doesn't think, he just executes the guard node logic he's practiced in code for years. He lunges, placing his body directly between the window and the official. Donnie, don't shoot. The soldier pauses, confused by the Westerner shielding the CCP target. In that split second of hesitation, a hand grabs Donnie's jacket and pulls him toward the service entrance. Hana, the window is a ghost, Donnie. Move. This is Hana. She is Donnie's translator, an honest protector with a Japanese lineage, her face a mask of stoic focus. She has been the bridge between Donnie's code and the brutal reality of the streets for months. Hana, the Renault is running. I have the diplomat's path cleared. Exterior alleyway. Moments later, they burst out of the back. The Metallica track is still thumping, vibrating the very bricks of the alley. Hana throws the diplomat into the rear seat and slides into the driver's side of the Renault, while Donnie shotgun. Donnie, Hana, the bridge nodes are failing. If we don't get him to the safe zone, the GFW is going to swallow every connection we have left. Hana, then we drive faster. I will get you through the silence, Donnie. I promise. The tires screech as the Renault disappears into the smog, leaving the distorted heavy metal and the terracotta city behind. I want to write a flashback where Donnie is having flashbacks of being tortured, chased, and forced to keep silent, that he awakes from night terrors, and the tormentors are still in his waking mind for a minute. Upon waking, make his tormentor be a representation of a corrupt polition. Flashback: the Room of Silence. Interior: an unknown basement. Night. The air is thick with the smell of ozone and damp concrete. Donnie is strapped to a wooden chair. A single naked bulb swings above him, casting long, erratic shadows. Standing in the shadows is the minister. He is impeccably dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, but his eyes are as cold as a dead server. He doesn't use physical tools. He uses the weight of the state. He leans in, his breath smelling of expensive tea and tobacco. The minister you think you built a second world, Donnie? You just built a smaller cage. Tell me the entry nodes. Give me the handshakes. Or we turn the lights off on everyone you've ever touched. Donnie, the data. It's already gone. You're chasing ghosts. The minister smiles, a slow, terrifying expression. He places a hand on Donnie's shoulder. It feels like lead. The minister, then you will become a ghost with it. He leans closer, his face blurring, his features melting into the gray, terracotta dust from Donnie's dreams. The world begins to vibrate with the sound of Metallica's Enter Sandman, distorted and booming. Interior, Donnie's bedroom, present day. Donnie bolts upright in bed, gasping for air. His heart is a drum in his chest. The room is dark, but in the corner, near the closet, the shadow doesn't match the furniture. For a terrifying, lingering minute, the minister is still there. He's standing by the door, adjusting his cufflinks, looking at Donnie with that same predatory calm. Donnie freezes. He can't tell if he's breathing or if he's turned to stone. Donnie, I didn't tell you. I didn't give them up. The figure in the corner shifts. As Donnie's eyes finally adjust, the suit jacket and the cold eyes dissolve back into a simple trench coat hanging on a hook. The silence of the room rushes back in, but the feeling of the minister's hand on his shoulder remains like a burn. Donnie reaches for his phone. His fingers are shaking so hard he can barely swipe the screen. He sees a notification. Hana, the Renault is ready. We move at 0400. He grips the phone like a lifeline. He isn't a ghost yet. Analysis of the scene. The minister is the GFW. He represents the logic of the firewall. Quiet, persistent, and seemingly everywhere. He isn't a thug. He's a bureaucrat of silence. The lingering hallucination. This is a classic symptom of complex PTSD, where the hypnopompic state allows the nightmare to overlay onto reality. The connection to Hana, by ending on Hana's message, you show that she is the only thing tethering him to the first Earth and keeping him from being swallowed by the second. Backstory, the forge of the second Earth. The town, Oak Ridge. Donnie grew up in a town where the air felt heavy with unsaid threats. It was a dying industrial pocket where the KK held the local council and the mafia ran the docks. The main street wasn't a place of community. It was a gauntlet of anti-Jewish propaganda and racial gatekeeping. Donnie spent his teens in a basement, not because he was a nerd, but because the world outside was a predatory wreck. He learned to code as a way to build a door out of a town that didn't want him to think. The ultimatum, 2004, fast forward to the visa office. Zhang Ga, a man whose face was always half obscured by cigarette smoke, sat across from Donnie. He didn't want money. He wanted the keys to the kingdom. Zhang Ga, you want to see the mainland? You want to see the first Earth? Then build me a way to bypass it. I need a Java socket relay system that can tunnel through the backbone routers. Give me a router hack that the GFW's intrusion detection won't flag. No code, no visa. Interior, Donnie's apartment, 2004. The apartment is a graveyard of caffeine pills and empty takeout boxes. The curtains have been drawn for 3 weeks. The only light comes from 3 monitors flickering with raw Java syntax and TCP/IP stack configurations. Donnie's skin is sallow, his eyes bloodshot. He hasn't showered in 20 days. He is vibrating with a mix of exhaustion and manic brilliance. Camille, his wife, stands in the doorway. She's holding a clean shirt, her face etched with a mix of terror and pity. She thinks he's just obsessed with a startup project. She has no idea the NSA is already monitoring the very packets he's sending to Zhang Ga. Camille, Donnie, please. Look at yourself. You're shaking. Just come to bed. Turn it off for one night. Donnie, I can't, Camille. If I stop, the handshake fails. If the handshake fails, the tunnel collapses. I'm almost through. I can see the other side. Camille, it's just code. Why is it more important than eating? Than us? Donnie doesn't answer. He can't tell her that he's seen the propaganda the Chinese ministry is feeding its people.